Welcome to our podcast series, Friends of the Mountains, where we delve into the incredible work and inspiring stories of individuals dedicated to improving the lives of both mountains and their communities. I'm your host, Bharat, bringing you tales from the mountains every Friday. This is episode 5 of Friends of the Mountains, and I'm very happy to receive the positive response from our listeners, and I'm thankful to your support and enthusiasm. So keep listening. Our today's story is about a compelling human being working on something that most of us did not even know if it existed. Having said that, I extend a warm welcome to Kirti Chavan, also known as Casey Bear Searcher. He is a conservation biologist and a science communicator with a particular focus on human wildlife interactions. What truly captivates me is his unique dedication to addressing human brown bear interaction in the Tethys Himalayan region, specifically in Zanskar, India. Kirti is actively engaged in research and working tirelessly towards the goal of mitigating damages caused by brown bears. Since 2018, his primary mission has been to raise awareness and educate local communities about the dynamics of human bear conflict and effective strategies for damage mitigation. Kirti has gone above and beyond, leveraging his expertise to create educational books such as The Adventures of Shibilibi and Tenmo the Clever Bear. These books are designed to be both accessible and informative, making complex concepts understandable even for young children. I think this is going to be very informative and fascinating for me as well. So, without further ado, let's hear next from Casey Bear Searcher himself.
Thank you so much. That was a very good introduction, and you pretty much covered almost everything. So, to elaborate, I've always had interest in wildlife, and to be very specific, people's understanding of wildlife, and then human-wildlife interactions. That's what we call it now. Um, so, I started my work in central Indian landscape, trying to
Okay.
understand the human-tiger interactions. And these interactions are mainly negative kind, wherein there is some sort of harm caused to either humans or the animals. So I started my journey with an organization called Sakura Foundation. I got to work around some ideas, and then organization was very, very supportive
Uh-huh.
to give me a free hand to try out things. And then after that, I moved to Ladakh.
Okay.
I sort of started volunteering with Snow Leopard Conservancy India Trust, help them with a bit of snow leopard work. And there was already a lot of work happening on in front of in terms of conflict mitigation and conservation of snow leopards.
Yeah.
Um, that was the time. So it's about 2016-17. We started hearing about certain incidences from Zanskar that the bears are coming and causing a lot of damages, and there's a lot of problem. So these were the random sort of information bites coming from Zanskar, and when we try to understand what exactly is happening, so that's the first step for any kind of conservation. Well, you need to understand what's the ground reality, what exactly is happening. When people say, "Oh, brown bears are coming and attacking and causing damage," we still have to take a step back and understand, okay, what exactly do you mean by chaos, or what is the damage that's been caused.
Right.
So 2018 is when the Himalayan brown bear project started, and obviously, as any good science methodology would ask for, we carried a detailed study of what's happening in the region.
Okay.
So about 218 households who had direct interaction with brown bears were interviewed. So I designed the questionnaire and tried to understand, try to dig deep as much as possible, get as much of accurate information as possible to know what exactly is happening, and then hopefully that would pave way for other work that will carry on. So 2018 study was the most important bit, the very important step that we took. And the results of the studies were astonishing. we really understood what is happening in the region. When you say the brown bears are coming into people's homes and breaking everything and destroying, what exactly are they breaking? What exactly are they going for? What is there in the house that is attracting them? Or what is
Okay.
the easiest accessible food source? So that study gave us that insight. And although it was just to get for myself, just to get an understanding what was happening, the outcomes were so important. We ultimately published a paper on it, and that
Okay.
paper is on public domain, guys.
Hmm.
And based on that paper, we started all the mitigation work. And since now we've been like, it's been 6 years now, still
Wow.
working in Zanskar. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I'm trying to understand here what is the scale of this problem and what you as a mitigator trying to do in solving such problems.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have to understand the scale of the problem. So when you say the brown bears are coming into people's homes and doing whatever they're doing, we have to understand how much of that damage is caused and where is it caused. Zanskar is like a 7,000 square kilometer area. So are they everywhere? And so we understood that there is sort of a timeline to this problem. Okay, so
Okay.
unlike conflict with big cats like tigers and leopards, which always existed at a different scale, interestingly, in Zanskar, this problem never existed, say, 12, 13 years ago.
Okay.
Okay, it's quite recent. So
Hmm.
now how do you get to know when you talk to people, they go, oh, we've never seen bears before and things like that. Even if you don't talk to people, you understand certain things in place. If like you've spent some time in Ladakh, you've probably seen wolf traps, the herders who catch the wolves, and if the wolf creates causes damage, then there is
Yeah.
things for snow leopard to keep them away. So traditionally, there was something to keep these predators away, wolf and snow leopard, but it's nothing on bears. So people also did not know what exactly should one do to keep the bears away. So that tells you this problem is so recent, and people's understanding of this animal is so very basic. So there are narratives that take over, and then people's attitude change. For
Hmm.
example, fear is the most prominent emotion or the perception that people have. Bear is a very dangerous animal and it's going to cause a problem. So I'll talk a bit more about that. Something interesting came up this year, during this year's work, but
Yeah. Go
try to
ahead.
just tell you the scale of the problem. Sorry, I might digress about the
Yes.
scale.
Yes.
So extreme, and so if you understand Zanskar, mainly four valleys. If you
Hmm.
start from Kargil,
Hmm.
you cross over Penzilla and come towards central Zanskar. The first valley is Stot Valley.
Hmm.
Then the central Zanskar, which is Zumkhur, that's second, which is a smaller
Okay.
area. Then going towards Leh is Sham Valley. Then going towards Manali is Numnak Valley.
Okay.
Now the problem back in the day started extreme ends of Stot Valley. So villages for like Aksho, Abran, they were the only villages reporting some incidents of bears.
Okay.
That changed over time and the trend started moving, and then almost all of Stot Valley started reporting bear incidents. Okay, over the year. So I myself have seen these incidents grow over last 6 years, say from mid of Stot Valley to all the way to central Zanskar, where from Central Zanskar to going all the way to Numnak Valley, where the bears were traditionally never seen, because the
Mhm.
landscape's very different. It's very rugged landscape, and not a ideal habitat, for example,
Okay.
for an animal like bear. Perfect habitat for wolves and snow leopards. But so that's a scale. The problem is on the rise. So the trend is upward moving trend. Also, what's interesting is to tell if someone's interested in how long this is going to go. It's like every incident that people are reporting, or not every incident, but most of the incidents that people have reported are of a female coming with her cubs into the village and breaking into people's homes.
Hmm.
Now, if you understand what is happening, the cubs coming regularly to the villages, they start thinking, this is part of my natural habitat, or this is part of my natural behavior to break into people's homes. So when these cubs grow up, they are going to continue doing this because they have learned that
Yeah.
this is a normal thing. So that is the scale of problem, which is like a upward growing trend. So, which is why serious mitigation measures and serious policy intervention is needed at this moment.
Yeah.
So, yes, sir.
So listening to this leads me to a question, very important question actually. Why now? I mean, like, what triggered this problem? Like, all of the sudden, just in recent years, what was that trigger
Yes.
point, and like, what was the major cause you think?
So scientifically, you can't say anything right now unless a proper study is carried out.
Hmm.
But there are speculations. One of the biggest speculation that's going around everywhere is climate change. Climate change has known to change animal behavior and has sort of direct or indirect link to rise in conflicts of different kinds.
Hmm.
And across the world, people have been reporting change in bears' behavior due to various aspects of change in the climate. For example, I've just read somewhere that in Alaska, the feeding behavior of the bears have changed because so there was a time where the berries used to fruit on a plant. Once that season is over, that's when the salmon spawning happens and the bears go for salmon feeding. But
Okay.
now, because of climate change, the berry fruiting has delayed and now it coincides with salmon spawning. So now there are certain areas where the bears are actually not going to the rivers and feeding on salmon, but they are just on the berries. So the people have seen a lot of changes in bear behavior.
Hmm.
Similarly, in Zanskar, all of Ladakh, for example, there could be a change in vegetation pattern, the type of vegetation that the bears depend on for their for their survival sustenance. That could be changing, and uh, and if there is a deficit, they'll try to compensate that deficit by coming into human habitation.
Okay.
Second, there is a lot of disturbance due to human activity. Okay. So
Mm.
right from Kargil, so people talk about Kargil War. When Kargil War happened, a lot of shelling happened around that side, which
Yeah.
dispersed whatever bear population was around that area, and though that population started moving towards, say, Zanskar. It probably is still moving because every year we hear about incidences of bears being spotted where they were traditionally not seen. For example, in your area, Nubra, a couple of years ago, there was a bear roaming in Nubra, Sati and Tirit area for 15 days. And then again towards Changthang, recently someone saw a bear there. So these are the places where you rarely seen bears. Right?
Hmm.
So human disturbance, like for example, you have started making roads, you started making bridges. It also sort of facilitates the bears to start occupying new territories.
Hmm.
There's another thing why. Okay, there is the movement of bear, but why are the bears coming into the human habitation? Now, there's
Hmm.
another speculation to that. For example, there is a food conditioning that have probably happened over a period of time.
Hmm.
So, in a prime bear habitat where there was absolutely no interaction between humans and the bears, suddenly the trekkers started going there, camping, leaving food probably. Or there
Hmm.
is like an infra project, a road being constructed, there's labor camps there throwing anthropogenic food items, and bears sort of get used to these food items. When the camps move away, or if that food is no longer available there, they start looking for sources of that food, which is definitely
Yeah.
human habitation, so driving to
Wow.
bears to villages. Then there is also another angle which I've sort of tried to explore is why have they started breaking into people's homes so easily? So you look at
Hmm.
the architecture itself, right?
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
traditional architecture. Now you spend some time in Ladakh, you know, really, so 100, 200-year old houses. How were they built? The ground
Yeah.
floor of the house was
Was
mainly
for
for the big cattle,
livestock.
livestock, with very small windows because there wasn't need for such a big ventilation and it had to be kept warm. Your main
Correct.
house
Yeah.
was always on the first floor, out of
Hmm.
reach from the bed. Now that has changed. A lot of people are opting for modern architecture, which is just one floor or and with large French windows
Hmm.
on all sides, which is
Yeah.
so easy for a bear to break into. All it needs is just one push by this strong bear, and he's inside the house. So a lot of
Yeah.
things are facilitating
Hmm.
this change in bears' behavior. And bears are a highly adaptable animal. So if there's a food source, they will get to that food source anyhow. And then you put in obstacles in front of them, they're excellent problem solvers. And then they try to tackle that obstacle and to get and try to get to the food source, which is what makes my job very difficult because You do something to keep the bear away, it will probably keep it away for some time. Eventually, the bear figures out in the way, and
It's a smart
yes,
beast.
it
So,
is. It is,
like,
and
what
very
I
amusing
understand.
animals.
So what I understood is maybe people irresponsibly leaving their trash behind, or maybe leftover food behind, developed this kind of taste buds
Yeah.
in bears, and now when that food is over, they are looking for the similar kind of food.
Yes, more than enough evidence out there that supports this statement that you made. Yes, a lot of places, the food conditioning, the first source of food conditioning across the globe has always been trash, the human
and
trash.
and they have, I think, strong sense of smell,
Yes, that's
way
correct.
powerful than us. They can
Very
probably
powerful.
spot.
So you get these juice packets in those Tetra packs, right? The Rio
Mhm,
or Tropicana fruit juice. So you have that, the Tetra pack is empty, you throw it away.
mhm.
Okay, so there's no juice in there, but the smell still lingers, which attracts the bears. Okay. Then again,
Interesting.
the prime target of these bears break-ins is what we call it, is has been the monasteries, the gompas, where they like the butter lamp. The smell of butter is a big attractant for the bear. So most of the
Oh,
places, every village, the first point of bear sort of break-in is always gompa, where it usually first gets there and then starts exploring other homes of people. So there's
wow.
that. Then
So,
again, if you see, looked at watermills,
mhm,
so they are away from the village, in the stream, somewhere far away from the disturbance. And if
mhm,
you walk close to these watermills so after the thrashing season, when they take the barley for grinding,
mhm,
for the barley flour. If you have to walk close to a watermill, you cannot resist the smell of the freshly ground barley. Right? So how is the bear going to resist that? So then it attacks, sort of breaks the watermill, gets a taste of the barley flour, and then follows that trade. So there's a lot of speculations why this is happening, but all the reasons point to human activity.
yeah, the migration, and then they coming closer and closer every day near human civilization. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just to paint a picture, and let's go a little bit back and understand how traditionally people in Zanskar store their food. So that would give us, our listeners, an idea that like why the bear is coming for their food.
Yes. So traditionally, people have been sort of storing food in their jute sacks. Then, if it's a dairy product, they would probably keep it in goat skin pouches and stuff like that. So,
Mhm,
Stoat Valley is known for rich dairy produce because they have the most fertile vegetation around that area. All the herders take the animals to all the way to Penzilla, and
mhm,
most of the livestock feeds on medicinal plants and a lot of important herbs that add nutrition value. So any dairy produced from stock is considered highest, or some consider of highest quality.
mhm,
And they bring it back and store it in their homes, which is jute sack or animal skin, or now just a normal container. But that's not the problem. The problem is the access to that food. When you change the architecture, like there's a French window for your house, which is so easy to break into, and the bear's going to come. Or if not the French, if those large windows, you have the door, which is again not made properly. The bolts, the angles of the weakest point, it pushes the door and gets in. But
mhm,
if you have the homes like in the past, where you actual house and the kitchen were all on the first floor, very difficult for the bear to get there unless it climbs the stairs. Well,
mhm.
so there are ways to avoid the bear, ways to sort of deter the bears from climbing those stairs and stuff like that. Easier,
Yeah,
but now it's more difficult because of the
mhm,
change in architecture.
correct. So, what makes dealing with bears different from dealing with other predators like snow leopard and wolves?
So I think I've already covered that a bit, saying that they're excellent problem solvers,
Mhm,
and if they fixate on one thing, they will get to, for example, food source. They want to get there, they'll try and do what it takes to get to that particular food source. For example, we have found solution to keep the snow leopards away from the livestock enclosure. For example, you make a predator-proof corral, like there's a livestock pen, and you put a mesh wire on top and cement the edges. Your problem is solved. So snow leopard will never be able to get inside that corral, nor will the wolf be. But bear, it will tear open that mesh wire. What it does is, in certain cases, I've seen of the homes and coral walls, the bears come and probe. Their sense of touch is also very strong. So what they do is they stand against the wall and push the wall, and then see where is the weakest link. If they find one rock which is loose, that's it. Then it puts his mind there to work, pulls that rock out, makes a good enough big entrance for it to come inside and do what it needs to do. So what makes it challenging is the bear's problem-solving ability, its intelligence. So strength to strength, I've never battled a bear with strength to strength. For example, it can push a 200 kilo structure. I will not build a structure weighing 500 kilo because I don't want to go strength and strength against it. Instead, you work with its limitations. For example, to one of the mitigation measures, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit later, but let me just mention this. There's a bear-proof food storage container that I've designed. It's just a metal container. What makes it very different is that it has a locking mechanism that requires you to use your 2 digits, which the bears lack. So it's a lock which you need to press with 2 fingers and then it opens. Now, that's something the bears can't do. So, you work with such limitations to tackle this problem. Well, it's worked till now, and hope it keeps working. But there is a great demand for these bear-proof food storage containers in Zanskar. We already given it to 2 villages. Every household has it, and it has the limitation that we need to work on. But yeah, that's one of the good signs. Now, why that is a good sign is because they are also known to be a lot of studies out there point to something called as energy calculation mechanism in bears. For example, to access a particular food source, the amount of energy spent, and if it doesn't get that in return, the bear's motivation to go after that food source lessens. So there are studies which actually prove to that. So I'm thinking, if we are going to put bear-proof food storage containers in these houses, and 1 year it keeps breaking into and doesn't access the food, again it comes back, again fails, eventually it is going to think that my effort is wasted. I'm not going to go into the house. Hopefully so that needs to be tested. This is still an hypothesis.
Basically, you're just making the bear give up.
Yeah. More than that, I mean, I'm like I say, I'm relying on bear's intelligence more than what I'm doing there. So it is intelligent enough to see, okay, this is a waste of my time, so let me just do something else. So yeah.
So my next question is going to be on mitigation strategies itself. So you could just keep on talking about what are the possibilities and like what is the ideal case scenario you can present, that like how can we prevent it completely against what is happening right now?
First, I would like to say that we have to do something right now because this is the right time. For example, places like US, Canada, they've had this problem for decades. Okay, so now it's very difficult for them to go back to how it was, possibly. I'm thinking our problem is quite recent, and we probably have a scope to arrest this at this moment and maybe not let it escalate. For example, if the bears cubs are coming and learning this, okay, and they continue doing that as they grow up, it's going to be an irreversible situation for us unless something drastic happens. In terms of mitigation long term, right now very difficult to say because we've just started to understand. The bear, Himalayan brown bear, is a subspecies of brown bear lineage, and this is one of the least studied animals. Okay, for example, there are hundreds of studies carried out on tiger behavior, and say leopards and snow leopards, but bear, not many. Okay, so right now I could probably count 4 or 5 researchers who are actually studying the bears, but there could be about 150 researchers studying the tiger. So that's the knowledge gap we have. We need to understand more on bear behavior to say that this is something that will work long term and solve this problem permanently. But For now, what we need to do is keep trying various mitigation actions. For example, the bear-proof food storage container has made sure that people are not losing their food items to the bear, but it
Mm-hmm.
has not stopped the bears from breaking into and investigating into the homes. It is still causing the property damage. So that is a point of concern. Now, what do you do to make sure it stops, breaking into people's homes and we reduce the property damage? There are things like sound alarms that we try. That has been very success. I wouldn't say success, 100% successful because we are yet to get those kind of alarms that will last in this harsh condition of Zanskar. You know the extreme climatic conditions of Ladakh.
Right.
Zanskar in particular is more harsher. So
Mm-hmm.
most of these devices have failed to last winter. So there has been those challenges. Then there's touch-based deterrence. For example, there are these harmless spikes that you put on the windows and stuff like that, where the weakest points of the house is the door or the window. You put those spikes there, the bear's not going to push through. But again, there's a challenge of aesthetics. Not everyone will want those ugly-looking things on their windows and doors. So you got to keep working and find out other solutions.
Right.
There are people who tried firecrackers and barbed wire. I've already sort of done some posts on why barbed wires and firecrackers don't work because
Yeah.
that's
It's
waste of time and
temporary.
effort.
It's a temporary
Yes, that's
measure,
right.
probably.
That's right. And then hopefully, if say people turn back to their traditional form of architecture,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes very difficult for the bears to break into your homes, right? You
Yeah.
all say, for example, you make your two-story house, but for that to come, your traditional values have to come. Now, why are people building different houses? Because it's probably more manageable for them.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, the traditional value was your house. How you build the house is not dependent on what is your financial situation, but how your relation is with the community, right?
Right.
Everyone comes together and they used to come and collaborate and build house, help each other,
Mhm.
and not as a
Right.
favor, but it's something that they believe that they should do. Now
Yes.
that has gone. Now everyone is on his own, like every each person on his own. So those
Yeah.
traditional values they come back, and the people start building the houses that they were building earlier with whatever modern touch they want. There's a possibility. Basically, there are various ways you can bear proof your homes. Once you bear proof the home, there's less chances of bears coming into your homes, breaking into them, and less chances of those interactions. Eventually, it should sort of fade out. Of course, there is the other angle people talk about that then the bears will go after the livestock. Maybe there will be attacks on humans and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
those also need to be tackled very differently at different stages.
So, were there any loss
Sorry.
of life? I mean, like human loss when bear attacks and like barges in the house. So, were there any cases like that where human life has been compromised?
So in Ladakh, there is no case of human fatality by brown bears. Okay,
Okay.
but we know from rest of lower Himalayas, people have died and been mauled by Asiatic black bear, which is more aggressive animal. Thankfully, they don't. They're not found in Ladakh, so not really. But again, we're saying change. So brown bears are shy. They try to keep away from people, but we also know that they are actually coming into people's homes and breaking. So there is a chance that things can get worse at later stage. For example, this village that I work in, people earlier used to throw firecrackers and the bears used to run away. Now they
Hmm.
throw firecrackers, the bear just stands on his two legs and sees, okay, what's going on. Then people used to charge, throw pelt stones and stuff like that, and the bears used to run away.
Hmm.
Now the bear has started coming back and giving a mock charge. So that bear is also learning how do you
Hmm.
deal with this human creature.
Hmm.
It's trying to sort of gauge how dangerous is this human. Can it take over humans or not, and things like that. So the best scenario is we don't have such interactions at all.
Hmm.
So let the bears be in the wild and let human be in human habitation. So
Hmm.
that's ultimately what we should aim for.
Okay. So let's go back to again mitigation strategies. Like maybe you could walk us through the projects, the school that you,
Yes.
mitigation strategies that you have used there, and maybe the water mill. So that would be like
Yes.
a good example. Yeah.
Correct. So watermill is very exciting uh, idea that we tried out. The
Mhm.
thing about watermill is, as you know, that it's used at night time. It's used throughout the day, but after the thrashing season, but it's used all 24 hours. So every household gets a turn to use the watermill. So they go carry their sort of barley and take it there to the mill and they let it grind. They have to come and collect it as well. So there is no time frame, exact time. You have to probably go at 2 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock at night, or maybe early morning. So that's a very dangerous thing because if the bear is hanging around that area and you're going there without knowing there's a bear, there could be a chance of a very bad incident.
Mhm.
So we decided to start bear proofing a watermill so that the bear doesn't hang around the watermill. Even if it comes, then it is discouraged to because it can't get any of the flour, so it will go away. So this is watermill that was getting raided by a bear, and there are certain bears that I closely follow, and I name some of them. And this bear is she's called Fuzzy because of her fuzzy hair and very fuzzy character. She's very funny. She's known to get drunk once when she sort of got access to liquor,
Really?
and she got drunk. That's a different story for a different time. But yeah, she climbs the watermill. That's her way of getting into the watermill, and
Mhm.
she starts removing the roof of the watermill. So she will put the stones away on one side and the wooden logs on the other side. She'll probably OCD bear and then get inside the watermill and then just causes damage. But if the bear's inside and perhaps someone doesn't know and then comes inside to the gate, there could be a chance of a very bad interaction. So we have sort of created a metal frame around the watermill. So when the bear tries to push the watermill walls, they will not fall. Plus, that entire thing is sort of covered with a metal sheet with spikes on it, so she can't get on top of the watermill to dig take the roof apart. So
Mhm.
that's one of the things that we did. It's probably it's got a good feedback from people, and people have been saying that still now the bear hasn't come there. Schools
That's
as
nice.
well are a very big attractant because of the midday. Government schools have the midday meal scheme,
Mhm.
which means they have to store ration in the
Mhm.
school so
Mhm.
that they can cook for the children. If you store a food and in any of the places, that's an attractant for the bear. Things
Mhm.
like sugar, rice, these are the items that the bears go after primarily. And we've tried to bear proof the kitchen stores and sometimes the entire school. So right now, two schools in Zanskar are completely bear proof, a village called Stara
Mhm.
and a village called Barak. These two places we have completely bear proof the school and we're going to monitor this. So monitoring is one of the most important part of your mitigation. You have to know, has your idea worked? Has it worked? It's been worked for how long and in what conditions? If it's not worked, why has it not worked? In what conditions has it not worked? So you improve those. So monitoring will happen for a couple of years more, and then possibly we can come up with a model saying that here are the 10 things that we tried as mitigation. Of those, these five things have worked very well for a period of 7 8 years, and maybe that can be pushed as to the administration to adopt that as a policy for mitigating brown bear.
Would you like to talk about design strategies in details which have been keeping bears away from breaking into the food storage area of the school?
So you look at some weak points, the entry points where the bears target the windows. So people already have these big windows, which are easy target. Then the doors are wooden doors. The bears can easily break the doors. So those wooden doors have been replaced by a complete metal iron door, which
Mm-hmm.
has no grip for the bears to hold, so they can't really hold anything. And then there are simple things that you change or modify. For example, instead of the door opening inwards, you make sure the door open outwards. For example, why that will work is because the bear's push power is far greater than its pull power.
Mm-hmm.
So everywhere you first try to push through something and then pull. When the door is just push, it not only is so difficult, the frame itself will stop the door from opening or giving way. Plus, being a metal frame and the entire structure fits together so strongly, it makes it almost impossible for the bears to break into that entire structure. So that was done in schools. And similarly, the watermill also, the doors were all metal grills and stuff like that. With that, there's access points where you had spikes being put on those pressure points. For example, the bear is going to push through certain areas. So you put some spikes around there. So it's going to deter the bears from breaking into.
That's
So
amazing.
that's so in conservation. So for there are a lot of things into conservation. First is there's a problem. There's a human wildlife interaction of negative type. So you come and mitigate. So is either a damage caused to the animal or a damage caused to the humans. You try
Mm-hmm.
to stop that damage. Then you take it forward and you're talking about what should be the long-term solution for this. So long-term solution, that's the conservation at play. Changing
Right.
people's mindsets, people changing people's attitude, make them more accommodative of these wonderful neighbors that we have, but also maintain a respectable distance so both the bears and people are safe. So
Mm-hmm.
that comes to your next question that you wanted to ask about education and awareness. So
Yes.
changing people's mindset happens mainly through these awareness and education activity. That I thought has a much bigger role to play long term
Mm-hmm.
or starting immediately itself. We've seen changes on ground when we saw and education programs or event, can't be preachy. You can't go to a village which is suffering from constant bear attacks and tell them, no, bears are important, they're wonderful animals, so you should not harm them and protect them. They'll throw
Mm-hmm.
you out. You have to
Right.
understand what the problems are and then try to tap into. So you take an approach of empathy. Okay, you have to be
Mm-hmm.
empathetic towards the bears as well as human beings. Because they are also facing losses. Their life is not very easy compared
Mm-hmm.
to life of a city dweller. The
Mm-hmm.
people are barely making ends meet, and all the time you have constant incidents of bear breaking your window panes and doors. You can't keep repairing them again and again. Plus,
Correct.
there's a factor. I
Mm-hmm.
have a child in the house, and there's a big animal roaming around my house. That's not going to put me in a comfort zone. So you
Mm-hmm.
address these issues with your awareness programs. Try to talk about the initial awareness programs are all about how do you bear proof your homes and
Mm-hmm.
schools. So people are more receptive to such conversations, and then you talk about certain things that you've done, take them to those sites or implement those bear proofing methods in their village and tell them how it has worked and encourage them to take it forward.
Mm-hmm.
Give conservation back in people's hands, and that's when it succeeds. If you as an NGO or a conservationist are going to hold your ideas and your solution to yourself, then you will never succeed because you will never be able to reach far ends of the country. So what we've done is we've started something like a bear monitoring team. Every village
Mm-hmm.
there are representatives who have come forward saying that we have interest in knowing more about bear proofing techniques. So
Wonderful.
you sort of induct them, tell them how you can bear proof. Then they become the knowledge holders. They tell other people. Now they've already done bear proofing. What else can they do? Then they start monitoring the bears. For example,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they maintain a logbook. Around this time, the bear came from this valley, but it exited from that valley. And that has been the pattern in autumn, but it changes in the spring, whatnot. So all this information comes to you, and which is very, very important information. And this is called citizen science, common citizens involved in science. So involve them in these activities, then they become the torchbearers of conservation. So when you ask about what is a long-term solution, this is a long-term solution where you put conservation back in people's hands and make them the guardians of these wild animals. So
Mm-hmm.
e- education awareness has been the main key component of conservation across the world, and I have seen great value in that. And this is not just limited to communities who are facing problems with bears. So biggest challenge in conservation is people's perception, and that
Mm-hmm.
can change with any incident. Today, you worked with a community for like 5 years, and they are pro conservation, and then it just takes one incident for them, their perception to their views to change.
Correct.
So you have to
Right.
constantly work with them. Very
Yep.
interestingly, as part of a different project,
Mm-hmm.
we was part of a survey, attitude survey, for snow leopards, wolves, and bears.
Mm-hmm.
And this survey was carried out in three different villages of Zanskar in Lungnak Valley, where there are no bears found, and there have been no incidents of bears in coming into those villages,
Okay.
because I've been monitoring those villages for the last 6 years. Interestingly, their attitudes tell you so much more. For example, there's a simple question asked: do you like bears? Do you like snow leopards? Do you like wolves? Most of the people, about 60% of the people, said they disliked bears. They disliked bears more than wolves and snow leopard, and it was actually the wolves and snow leopard that were causing a lot of livestock damage.
Mm-hmm.
Bears caused zero damage, but yet they have that fear perception. And then there was another question asked: should you conserve? Should these animals be protected?
Mm-hmm.
Should snow leopards be protected? Should wolves be protected? Should bears be protected? 70% of the people said bears should not be protected. So
Mm.
the battles that you're fighting is out here, the mind, the people's
Yeah.
perception, and it made me wonder, why are they having this idea? Why are they having this perception against bears when they never had a direct interaction with bears? It's about narratives. And people tell stories. So people from Stoat Valley come and tell, okay, there's this bear coming and breaking my glass windows, and so the nuisance value and the fear factor adds up, and people in places where there are no bears start believing this is an animal I don't want, even if it's not
Mm-hmm.
fun. So, so you tackle this problem with awareness programs, then education programs, and then work with children, work with women. They are the ones who will actually change the society's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
But I understand that we can mitigate the damages by letting the bear not to come inside your house. But what about outdoors? I mean, like, do they have tendency to attack human just to, just in order to eliminate the threat? Is it common?
So, yeah, you're right. So right now, so the immediate problem was people coming into your house and breaking your house and creating that danger element. We try to mitigate that first. The second step is definitely when you take your sheep and go out in the pasture area. If you take your cow, yak, zomo, donkey, horse out in the pasture area, or leave
Mhm.
them out in the mountains, the bears are known to kill the livestock. Although unlike other places, the livestock killing in Zanskar has still been very less compared to other regions that have been reporting it. If every incident that happens, for example, I've been maintaining the record of every bear incident that happened over the last 3 years in
Mhm.
Zanskar. There's like a proper record, and it still shows 75% of those incidents are house break-ins, and only 25 are of the livestock kill. But the loss that people incur with livestock loss is much higher than the house break. For example, a window broken is going to cost you 1,000 rupees, but a sheep killed is 12,000 rupees. So those losses are
Correct.
still high. Now, how there are ways to tackle it. Now you have to have proper herding techniques. You sort of be more vigilant, and there are other traditional ways in Ladakh itself
Mhm.
that people used to follow, which is no longer followed, or at least not followed very strictly. If those things come back, then you are keeping your livestock safe as well out in the open in the mountains.
What about the kids? I mean, they just roam around, and is it safe for them? Because that will lead me to a question which maybe we'll take that probably later. But what about like human without any livestock wandering around?
Yes. So attack on humans is possible. I'm not negating it,
Mhm.
and there are a lot of places that it has happened. Um,
Okay.
when does it happen is what you need to understand. It will happen when you are in the mountains and there's an accidental encounter with the animal. When you scare the animal and the animal thinks it's cornered or it is in danger, then it is going to attack. For example, there's a mother with cub, and you are in close proximity to the cub or between the mother and the cub. The mother is definitely going to attack you. So you have to be aware of these animals and where you are, and then you can be careful. For example, my job it requires me to be out in the bear territory, and a lot of time I don't have the luxury to be with people. I'm out there alone, so my safety is
Mm-hmm.
my responsibility. So you have to just follow simple ways, simple techniques to make sure your presence is felt. For example, if I'm entering a narrow valley, I'm going to make some sound. Make sure the animals, whichever animal out there, knows that there's a human entering and there's a presence of human. So what's the first thing that is going to happen is the animal is going to spot you and it's going to run away, regardless of which animal it is. Okay. So when you do that, you are making sure that you are safe. There is almost never the case where you have made your presence felt, you made sound, and the bear has seen you from far, and then it has come approach and attack. It's always been when there is an accidental encounter. You might have seen some videos where from I think this video was from Romania or somewhere. A family was out trekking, and there is a bear following them continuously.
Wow.
Those incidents are very rare. But obviously, how did it turn out? The bear didn't attack the family. They just ran out. It just went away. So you
Okay.
got to be very aware of where you are and what you need to do in that kind of scenario. So your question was probably leading to food deficit. If you are going to protect, your kitchen stores and protect the livestock, what is the bear going to eat? Is it not going to attack humans? And if that was the question, then no. These animals are omnivores, but
Mm-hmm.
Himalayan brown bear, the 90% of their diet is plant-based.
Okay.
So they are eating meat-based diet only like 5%, 10%, depending on availability. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like this is a fixed ratio. They're opportunistic feeder. If the bear gets access to meat all year round, it is going to eat meat all year round. But there's something very interesting. The survey that we did, understand what are the food items that the bear is going after. It clearly shows that it is going after certain food items which are high on glycemic index, which is sugar, rice, things like that, sweetened cheese with
Mm-hmm.
churpe.
Okay.
Uh, from those incidents of house break-ins, there were many incidences where in that kitchen there was meat stored, and the
Mm-hmm.
bear has avoided the meat and gone only straight for sugar. So they're aware of that. Again, the example that I cited earlier, where the berries started fruiting the same time the salmon spawning, what did the bear prefer? Did they prefer the salmon or the berries? They prefer the berries
Mm-hmm.
because when you eat, they would eat berries, the sugar will help them put on fat more quicker. So there is that indication as well. So while I say they're opportunistic feeder, for now, I don't think there's a threat of brown bears going after humans too for sustenance. Right now,
Okay.
there's no indicator of any animal doing that. You heard of stories of man-eating tigers and man-eating leopards. Those are still, there's a lot behind those stories as well. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not like conditioned human eaters or going after humans as
They
their prey.
usually avoid, I
Yeah,
think.
I mean, I have once accidentally walked in front of a tiger. I was 25 feet away from the tiger, and this tiger just like was shocked. I was shocked. We both looked at each other, and then the tiger just went away. It was a massive, big male tiger. It probably would have taken only two jumps for him to be on me, but tiger knew what it can do, and its sense prevailed. It went away. Also, if I
Okay.
would have immediately sort of panicked and ran, it would have triggered a charge. It would have triggered an attack. So you also have to be aware when you are in which kind of animal territory and what you need to do. So
Okay.
yeah,
I think let's talk about that. I feel it's important for a commoner to know. You being an expert, know that like how you should react when you are standing in front of a wild animal. But as a commoner, I might not know that how should I react. So
correct.
what are those common, observation that one can make and come to senses and like analyze that? how the animal is behaving, and based on their behavior, how one should react. So, could you share
Correct.
tips?
That's a very important question here. First key is awareness. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be aware of what animals you find in our own country, in our own backyard. That's the
Mm-hmm.
first step. Surprisingly, not many people in India know that we have brown bears. With all these Hollywood films and things like that, they think the brown bears are only grizzlies, which are found in the US. So there was a fun survey I had conducted. I showed photos of four different animals. There was a
Mm-hmm.
brown bear, there was a tiger, there was a leopard, and there was a puma, which is
Mm-hmm.
found in North America. And I
Okay.
asked which animal is not found in India. And I circulated that to 20 people and asked them to circulate to five more people. So approximately about 200 people responded to that quiz.
Mm-hmm.
80% of people said brown bears is not found in India. And they actually thought pumas found in India. So awareness is the first key. Then
Wow.
people, when they generally talk about brown bears, they say, "Oh, I've heard about brown bears. There's grizzlies, and I know how to sort of deal with the brown bear. You are supposed to lie down on the ground and play dead if there's a bear. Bear is a scavenger as well, opportunistic feeder. If you're going to play dead, it is going to come and think, yeah, you're meat, right? you
Huh.
So these are the things that you need to be more practical. I mean, obviously this is something that's been said in the US for the black bears only, if I'm correct. So you asked, when you look at the animal, what do you need to do and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There is a clear science behind it. You stand your ground.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's a mother and cub, first thing, you should not be in that situation at all. Now, how do you make sure you do that? Is by when you're going out in the mountains or
Mm-hmm.
in the bear territory, you make your presence felt. You go in a larger group. You don't go alone. Things like that. Very simple, sensible tips are these. Now, if you are going and you sort of not making your presence felt, and there's a blind turn, there's a big boulder, or there's a sharp turn around this hill, and then there could be a bear around there. You go across, and then there's a face off. What do you do? So this is exactly what happened with us. When we're somewhere close to Zangla, or a herder, and
Mm-hmm.
one person which is going. It's a very narrow valley,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the usual trail, and we knew there were bears, so this herder went in, and the bear came right from front, and they both stopped. So this herder didn't run, but he just stood there. The bear also stood there. He started grunting, making signal that he's not happy that this human is here. So
Mm-hmm.
all that the herder did was he stepped away from the trail. He climbed a smaller ledge and made way for the bear, and the bear quickly ran away. It was a big bear, but all
Okay.
it wanted that time was a way to pass. That's all they wanted. So if he would have ran immediately or panicked, then the bear would have triggered an attack. So first thing, you never should not be in that situation where you encounter this animal. One, you
Mm-hmm.
are encountering a bear like that, stand your ground, do not run. And then bears or whichever animal it is going to turn away. Like the way I talked about the tiger incident. Or I
Mm-hmm.
did not run, but not because I'm expert or I read it, that the common sense played on my mind. Also, the awe of seeing the tiger out there, it was just immense, and I just stood there. So I had close encounters with bears as well. For example, there was just last year I was camping outside one of the village where
Okay.
there were incidents of bears,
Mm-hmm.
and I pitched my tent, and people said just keep a lookout around this side. The bears usually hang around here. So about 10 o'clock at night, I came out of my tent, just thought let's have a look. I flashed my torchlight, and there's a big bear just about 20, 30 feet away from my tent,
Oh.
and just standing there.
What did you do?
As soon as I cast light, then it lay flat on the ground. Now this is amazing. Like this, such a big animal can hide so effortlessly. It fell down on the ground like a carpet, but and it just lay there looking at my tent, and I kept flashing the light. His eyes reflected the light back, and then it was just there. And I went back in my tent. Interestingly, the bear was just curious, who is this person or what is this thing? like a tent out there in his
Mhm.
area. And it just kept on looking at my tent for a very long time. I came out of my tent after half an hour, a flashlight, is the bear still there. So it was watching me. So
Mhm.
long. So I let the bear know that I have spotted it, and the bear was aware of my presence. So we both were safe. And after that, I went to sleep. Obviously, there are other things that could attribute an attack. Whereas if my tent had some food item which were
Mhm.
of high order and could have attracted the bear, I would have been in trouble. Maybe the bear would have been a bit courageous and try to investigate, come to the tent. These things happen as well. So I did not store any food items in my tent, so there was no attract. So I knew I was completely safe.
Okay.
So there are some simple things that you do. Again, there are most of our education program, awareness programs that I do in schools. Especially, I love interacting with school children because they are so curious, and the kind of questions they ask about bears is amazing. And
Mhm.
most of the time they ask, what should we do with the bear attacks? So then we have to approach it in a very logical way, saying that you should not be in a situation where the bear attacks you, but in case there is a situation, how do you protect yourself in case there's an attack? What body parts does the bear go for? The neck, face is what you need to protect. Just hold your neck and lie down, face to the ground, and the bear's going to go. But more emphasis is on how making sure that this doesn't happen at all.
Mhm.
So children are quite interested, especially in Zanskar, wherever they come from. Like if their village had any bear incidents, so they keep asking these questions. Also, some funny, interesting questions as well, because yes, they are scary, but the bears are also amusing animal. They do some really funny things which make you laugh. So that also sort of creates a mixed reaction amongst people, especially children.
Mm. But are there any prominent signatures which you could just see and then know that, like, what's the state of this animal? Is he angry? Is he going to attack? Or are we good to go? Are there any common signs like that?
So there is no sign which says good to go. You just need to be we need to be away from the animal and sort of slowly retract back.
Mhm.
But like for example, in the bear has come into your village and you're approaching their livestock enclosure, and the bear is around there close by. So you're going to make some sound to scare the bear. But if the bear starts sort of stands on his feet, tries
Mhm.
to make himself look bigger than you, so that's not a good sign. The worst sign is when it starts making this chomping sound, like he bites his own, it makes a chomping sound. That's a sign that he's not happy that you are there. So you need to back away. Just
Mhm.
because it's your livestock enclosure, you should not approach and try to scare it further. You've
Mhm.
probably seen some videos from Kamchatka in Russia where photographers go and then they sort of clicking photos of the bears. Bears are just walking from close by. There are mock charges made by the bear. And I just saw a full video recently. A bear came charging from really far, right, straight head on into the cameraman. And just about just 5 feet from the cameraman, he just turned, very changed the direction. The cameraman did not run, he just stood there, stood his ground. That was a good thing. But what he did after was not good. Then he got a little courageous and he started chasing the bear. Obviously, nothing happened in that, at least in that video, I couldn't see anything happen. But that's something that you should not do. That means you're
Mhm.
challenging the bear. The bear any day,
Definitely.
any time the bear will turn back and then take a strike at you. So these are things that you got to avoid. I've
Mhm.
heard of this another incident that happened in Ladakh. I'm not sure when it happened or is it true or not. I've heard about this European lady who was trekking alone somewhere far, and then she
Mhm.
saw a bear with a female with cub, and then she wanted to take a photo. She saw it approaching very slowly, and she started getting close to the cub to get, and then she was attacked. So, but I'm not aware of the details of this incident. Nobody has ever elaborated or narrated anything about this incident. So these are things that you gotta avoid. This animal, you don't need to approach that animal. You have to stay away.
So that was very insightful. So Indeed, Kirti has been dedicating significant effort to convey the complexities of human bear conflicts in the simplest manner possible, using the medium of storybooks that are accessible even to young children. It would be great if you like to share about it. When did you feel the need to come up with something so creative and at the same time informative and easy to understand? We'd like to hear the complete story of how you ideate it, or probably if you'd like to acknowledge your team members.
Yes. Um, so the idea came based on the research. So we conduct all this research and all the science is all great. Okay,
Mhm,
you can do good science, you can publish papers, but what after that? After
mhm,
that, maybe you can start implementing the mitigation action that you already mentioned in your paper, and then, but that's about it. But
mhm,
the amount of learning you have received from your study, your research, that has to somehow translate into a very simple medium, so it's easily digested by people. Okay?
mhm,
And I thought, when while doing these education programs of Venezuela, the things that we were talking about, okay, when there's a bear, you have to sort of be cautious, you have to behave in certain manner and keep safe and all that. Or why is the reason that the bears are coming here? And it's just what you've studied, which you observed, and you're telling them. It's very preachy, but instead you sort of turn that into a science communication, right? Into a very pleasant storybook, for example.
mhm,
It is appreciated and absorbed by people in much better way. The impact is much larger. Even today, so this Adventures of Shibilibi was done in say 2020, and even now I get people asking for those names. So people know, oh, this is a Shibilibi guy. So that itself is some that association itself tells you that something has worked. Your message
mhm.
has transpired and it's gone to the right people who need
Right.
it, who needed to understand. Then Tenmo the Clever Bears came in, where
I know you
it
from
was
that
deeper.
book. Yeah,
Yes,
I've
yes.
read it.
A lot of people have contacted me based on that book, not just from Zanskar, from outside. I'm very glad that people. It's not a creative masterpiece. It's a very simple tool where I've told a very simple story from Zanskar and things that I've learned, things that could help people. Garbage problem, things like no, climate change, the bear incidents, and things like that.
Mhm.
So this was a project we collaborated with Radhika Kothari, Sandeep Sharma, who's a scientific advisor, and Dr. Sevan Namgyal, who also acted as a scientific advisor.
Mhm.
So I've illustrated this, but all these people have come together. Then International Bear Association (IBA) sort of funded the printing of these books, and which is why we could sort of distribute 500 copies to children in Zanskar. There are some
That's
spare
nice.
that I keep giving to people. So that has been a very good indicator of how simple communication works. You can do complex science, but the moment you translate that complex science into simple story, your objective is achieved. People will digest that story, they'll accept, they will respond to, and that's exactly what's happening. So now I'll be working on my third book. I'll continue my science communication in whichever way possible, making
Waiting for
sure
that.
people know. Yes, I will definitely send you a copy for sure.
Because Tenmo the Clever Bear, like it sort of came to me when I was in my hometown in Rajasthan. So look
Oh,
how far your book has reached. I mean, like it was brought in by a friend, and I was at home, and it was like a nice read. And I really loved it.
yes,
What I loved was like the simplicity and the beauty. It was easy for me as well as a 10-year-old young brother of mine. He understood the concept, even though he's not from that context. He's in Rajasthan. We don't have
yes.
bears, but like he still understood.
I'm really glad you liked it. And when you say something like this, then I just think that the objective of making that book I mean, it's the book has met its objective.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Truly,
let's hope
truly,
this
man.
book spreads to more.
Okay. So, last thing for the day. any message that you'd like to share with the world? It could be anything, even a piece of advice if you'd like to share.
It's just our outlook to our world has become so human centric that we sort of interpret everything with that lens,
Mm-hmm.
which may not be very helpful for us in return. For example, yes, the bears are causing some damage, but because there are bears or these animals out there, there is an ecosystem that is existing, which ensures our survival. We are already seeing what is happening. The moment these eco balances are disrupted,
Mm-hmm.
there's catastrophe. There is floods, there is drought, obviously, there's climate change that everyone's aware of. But for every problem, the solution cannot be human centric. You have to have a wider lens to look at things.
Correct.
So it applies to everything, even if you're not in Zanskar, even if you're not living in the forest, you're in Bombay or Delhi. Okay, all the things happening around you. Okay,
Mhm.
move that human-centric lens to more of a worldview. It will help everybody.
That's wonderful. And I would also like to say that it's my request from tourists that they should be responsible and not be leaving their trash or food items behind in when they are, especially when they are visiting such eco sensitive areas, because it can be as dangerous as it can get. So
Yes.
where could people best reach out to you?
Well, you can email me directly at kirtikc at gmail.com.
Mhm.
And my phone numbers may not work because the nature of the work and the areas that I go in, connectivity is always an issue. I mean,
Instagram?
now at least, yeah, in Zanskar at least we have some internet, but till 2019 we never had any connectivity. There was this BSNL network that you also used to sometimes work, not work. Once in a month we used to go under a massive VSAT dish to connect to a laptop to check emails. But now it's much better. So email is still the best way to connect with me. Or you can follow my Instagram page where my work updates are constantly posted because most of the funding comes from crowdfunding, like people
Mhm.
like you out there who are supporting the work. So they need to be updated how the money is being used. So follow my Instagram page, KC Bear Search.
So we will put that information in the podcast description below. I thank you so much for doing this podcast with me, and it has been an absolute pleasure and honor to do this podcast with you. Personally, it was very insightful, and I think our listeners would benefit from it. And I thank you again so much.
It was great pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. You're doing an excellent job.
So that was Kirti Chavan, and after this conversation, I feel like I know a lot better now about how animals behave, the way they behave, and some useful things, tips from Kirti. You can let us know about this episode on our email address friendsofthemountains.info at gmail.com. And just in case if you haven't checked out our previous episodes, do check them out as well. Our previous episode was about an empathetic architect working for a mountain community amidst the mountains, and this village has essentially 14 households and no road accessibility. So to know more of that story, do tune into our previous episode, Working with the Empathy Amidst the Mountains with Kavya Trivedi. You can follow us on Instagram for exciting updates at Friends of the Mountains. Also, this podcast is available on other platforms as well, like Apple Podcasts, YouTube, etc. You can reach out to us on our Instagram page at Friends of the Mountains. You'll find the relevant links in the podcast description. I'm your host Bharat signing off. I hope to see you next time.